Taieri River cuts a path from the inland basin and range country of central Otago to the Pacific Ocean, skirting the Rock and Pillar Range to find its way to the sea south of Dunedin. In local Māori mythology, the river's path was created by the movement of a taniwha called matamata through the land. 500,000 years ago, the river that is now the Upper Taieri flowed southwest into the Clutha. When these mountains rose, the river was split.
What is now the headwaters of the Upper Taieri, between the Clutha and the Upper Taieri, that came up over the last 1,000,000 years, and certainly within the last 500,000 years that ridge developed. As a result of that, the Upper Taieri was reversed and started to flow north, and it had to cut itself a gorge through near Hyde.
The fish that lived in the river were now separated into two populations, and over time evolved into two closely related species.
There was a population of the same species trapped on the Clutha side, and that's in what's now the Teviot stream that flows down from Lake Onslow. So that population is now essentially a separate species from the ones that are in the Maniatoto.
The headwaters of the Taieri flow out of tussock grasslands dominated by the mountain snow tussock Kainakloa rigida. These tussocks capture huge amounts of water from cloud and fog and contribute it to the catchment. Botanist Sir Alan Mark has spent much of his life studying these incredible plants.
You can see how the tussock has stripped the water, intercepted the water from the passing fog. It's just laden in moisture. Those drops are running down the leaf, down the channels of the leaf, into the base of the plant. And you see how the leaf is channeled here. It's like a U shape, and the water runs down the furrows of the leaf, right into the very base, right down into where the stems are at ground level. Very little material there to trap the water. Most of it goes straight into the ground and increases the soil moisture, and most of that water becomes available then for water yield.
The water captured by the tussocks is the Maniatoto's most precious resource. Where the Taieri flows across the Maniatoto, it starts to meander. Meanders form on very flat land, where the river is able to wander across its floodplain, constantly changing course. A feature of this landscape are oxbow lakes, which are left behind when the river abandons its old course. The Upper Taieri Scroll Plain is the only one of its kind in New Zealand. It is a nationally important area for wildfowl. In earlier times, Māori would venture here to harvest native ducks, swans and other birds, as well as tuna or eels and lamprey. A dam on the river allows water to be controlled for irrigation and power. However, the dam prevents the migration of tuna, lamprey and other native fish. We are working to improve fish passage throughout the catchment. Irrigation has allowed intensive farming to be carried out on the Maniatoto. Irrigation creates huge value for the local economy and drives the rural sector in this arid landscape. But controlling introduced pests is an ongoing job. Crack willow is an introduced tree that is well established on the Upper Taieri. They clog up waterways and restrict the river's natural movement. They also make access to the river very difficult in places. Along parts of the river, willows dominate the floodplain. Removal of these trees is expensive and difficult. involving spraying and removal piece by piece of the dead wood. Many farmers in the region argue that some form of light grazing is necessary to control their growth. The Taieri is fed by streams that run out of the Rockenpella Range. The Sauburn, a major tributary of the Taieri, emerges at the township of Patiaroa. The waters of the Sauburn are clean and clear, and filled with fish and invertebrate life. The high demands placed on the Upper Taieri mean that water quality in the main river channel is sometimes degraded. Sediment entering the system as a result of poor grazing practices reduces clarity and silts up important fish spawning habitat, while nitrate and phosphate leaching off farmland can cause dangerous algal blooms. Te Aki Maniatoto is working with farmers and other landowners throughout the catchment to fence and plant wetland areas and waterways.
We've got 3 different species that we're planting alongside the creek side today. We've currently planted probably about 1 kilometre long with Carrick Sexia along the river, and now we're also planting sort of further back on the sort of higher dry lands with a mix of red and silver tussock.
These hardy tussocks and carrickses will help filter contaminants from the Maniatoto's creeks and rivers.
Certainly a pretty harsh place to be a plant. It either seems to be super dry and super cold through the winter as well. So yeah, it's just finding locations where you're hoping that they're going to get enough water and the sort of environment that they need. So yes, it's reading the land and reading what sort of happens here, which you can kind of tell from what already exists and the things that are going on already. So we kind of use that to help direct us where we're going to put our plants.
The Kyburn is a major tributary of the Taieri, and once a famous gold mining area. It is one of the last strongholds of the critically endangered Central Otago roundhead galaxis. These small native fish are found in just a handful of tributaries of the Upper Taieri and Manuhirakia rivers, where, just like our native birds, they are threatened by introduced species and habitat destruction. Chris Steele and his wife Janet farm in the Kyburn catchment.
The kids are down there all summer in the evenings, or we go down for a swim and that too. It's beautiful clear water. I think it's very important for the whole community to keep it in that state. Try and keep all the rivers and creeks in the Maniatoto clean and clear.
The Steeles have been involved with Te Aki from the very start.
We got involved early on with fencing, fenced off probably about 4.5 kilometres of fencing with waterways and creeks.
Among the Steeles' many plantings is this natural spring, which runs directly into the Kyburn.
The deer were wallowing in here beforehand, so it's all fenced off, so stock can't get in now. There's a couple of thousand native plants in here, and it should be quite a beautiful area in the long run. We're going to have to do it at some stage anyway, fence off the waterways, so why not do it when you can get a wee bit of funding to help you towards it?
The Taieri River enters the sea just south of Dunedin at Taieri Mouth. Whatever goes in the river ends up here. Sediment and pollution from the Taieri can damage and destroy kelp forests along the Otago coast. Looking after the Taieri River is the responsibility of everyone who lives alongside it.